Hello and welcome to HCISD Highlight. I'm Melanie Zavala and with us today is Mr. Damon Wilson. So, Mr. Wilson, what's your role at the Performing Arts Conservatory?
Well, first of all, I serve a very different and unique role for our Harlingen Performing Arts Conservatory. I'm what I'm called an artist in residence. And what an artist in residence does is for any conservatory, they are there to kind of help be the artistic vision for where the conservatory is headed. So anything that goes up on that stage as far as theater arts goes, I'm involved in all of those productions in terms of seeing where the problems are, where we can improve, where we can take our productions up to the next level. I also do teacher in services. I do mentorships in the high schools and the middle schools, and then eventually on into the elementary schools. And so I serve a lot of different roles and capacities there with the conservatory.
That's super awesome. What makes the Performing Arts Conservatory so unique, and what presentations are coming up this spring?
Well, first of all, not many districts in this entire country have a conservatory in the district. What a conservatory is, it is an intensive for students that want to pursue theater arts to really be worked with on a very intense and professional level, really a collegiate and professional level for theater. And so we have multiple productions throughout the year. We do 2 musicals, we do a fall show, we also have our middle school, Gutierrez School of Arts and Sciences also performs a musical there, and then we also have Lee Means that presents a musical on stage as well. We have 2 UIL one-act plays. The students also perform at speech tournaments throughout the year, as well as speech and drama and debate tournaments. And so it's an incredible thing. The level of training that they get, the number of professionals that we bring in from outside. So they're not only working with us, the staff, but they also too are introduced to people that are working professionally on Broadway, on television, people that are doing things, amazing things all over the world. We will bring in those speakers sometimes in on Zoom, sometimes we'll actually have them there on site, and they will work with the students as well. So it's an incredible opportunity to really get our students out there into these college programs that are incredible across the country. And so it's been an amazing thing for us.
That's super awesome. I know that recently or currently they're doing Into the Woods. I actually attended that and it was amazing. Like the talent that they do have, oh, it's awesome. It was super awesome. From the presentation, you could tell that detail was like, there was a lot of detail on the set. It was amazing.
Yes, and I'm really proud of that because our technical theater department has really blossomed, and they built that set and really worked in putting all of that together. And I don't know if you saw the revolve that's happening up there on stage and everything. I mean, it's just incredible. And then we rented our costumes, and those are actually from the actual Broadway production of Into the Woods. And then the kids did a lot of research and a lot of work. And as you know, in that show, basically 95% of that show is all singing. And so it's the most singing that they've ever done. And so after Into the Woods will close, then our next production that will go up will be, Lee Means will be presenting Finding Nemo.
That's so awesome.
That's going to be awesome. So that'll be our next production that'll be going up. And then after that will be all of our one-acts, our middle school UIL one-act plays, and also our high school one-act plays as well.
I'm excited to see it. That's awesome. If students want to pursue a future in acting, what do you recommend that they do?
I think that first of all, one of the first things that they have to do is they have to understand that, you know, a lot of times people see acting and actors in Hollywood and on Broadway and all of that, and it looks very glamorous and a lot of money and a lot of this and whatever. And the reality of it is it's a lot of work. You have to be willing to do the work, and you have to really understand your craft and what you're doing and how to present yourself and how to really be self-sufficient as an artist. So I would say the first thing is getting to a program that is really going to teach you how to do it. Because a lot of people think, well, to act means that you just memorize lines and you stand up there and you do it. But the reality of it is acting requires a multitude of things. One of the first things is going to all of your classes and understanding that what you are acting about is what you are learning about. So you're learning, getting all that you can from your history classes, from your math classes, from your sciences, all of those things, because you're going to take all of those things and incorporate that into your acting. And then also understanding different techniques, how to approach a character, how to use your own life in your storytelling, and how to be really effective moment by moment while you're up there on that stage. So that when you're up there, it's not just that you are saying those lines, but you are living those lines and you understand every single word and every single moment and every single thing that's happening in the history of that. Because a lot of times when our students are acting or doing their roles, they're playing characters that are way beyond their years. They're playing characters that are in different time periods. Last year we did Sister Act, and Sister Act actually happens in 1978. It might as well have been happening in 1878, because we're up there talking about things and technologies that these kids don't even understand. And so we're having to go back and learn about all of those things so that those moments come to life. Whenever you see them, they're not only just being acted, but they are real. And so there's a lot that goes into that. So the first things first is to study first. The second thing is to understand that you've got a lot of work to do. And the third thing is to be vulnerable and open to change and to growing, because it is not easy. And a lot of people find that out whenever they get into that is, wow, this really requires all of who you are to be effective in that moment. But it's also too something that is life-changing and amazing. And putting yourself out there and being vulnerable like that is an amazing thing. And I've watched students grow so much, not only as an artist, but as a person. You're not the same person by the time you come out of that conservatory. So just know that when you say, I want to be an actor, what you're really saying is, I'm ready to change my life.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, Mr. Wilson, what did you want to become when you were a child?
There are three things that I thought that I would be whenever I grew up, and one of them I ended up becoming. I wanted to either be an attorney, I wanted to be an actor, or I wanted to be a teacher. And then secretly, I also wanted to be an ice skater. But I found out, first of all, when you're growing up in West Texas, ice is very hard to find. Yeah, it is. And by the time we moved to Dallas, I was 10 years old, and I tried to do some ice skating for the very first time. And you know, they make it look real simple, you know, on how you can just get over there and you do a triple Lutz, double toe loop. And so my mom took me to the Galleria in Dallas, and I put on my skates, and I said, Mom, I said, watch this. I said, I'm about to do the triple Lutz. And what I found out is that it actually turned out being more like the triple klutz, because I think I spun around one time, and then I was like, after I got up off the ground, I thought I might need an ambulance up in here. So I realized ice skating was out. And then to be an attorney, I really did not find my passion with that. I really started gravitating more towards theater and really gravitating more towards directing. I like being behind the scenes. I know right now I'm a lot in front of this camera and everything, but where I really shine is behind the scenes and making the magic happen. And I like visualizing and imagining it and then bringing that to life out there on stage. But I really wanted to teach it. And so from the time that I was in the 8th grade on, I really kind of started directing my life towards teaching theater and directing plays and helping students in that way. And I'm fortunate enough that I really got to do my passion, so I don't feel like I work every single day. I mean, it's what I absolutely love to do, and that's what I do every day is help students and help teachers to grow and to be better. The biggest reward for me in my life is when my students are better than I am. and when my teachers that are under me are better than I am, when they come up with ideas that I never would have even imagined, that's when I know that I've been a success, is to help people to grow and go past what they thought they could do, and hopefully grow and go past what I'm able to do.
When you were, okay, you said that you figured that out. What advice would you give to people that aren't really sure of what they want to pursue?
Yeah, one of the things that I would say, and this is something that I have really thought about a lot, is that I think that life gives you clues if you are open enough to be able to be observant to them. Sometimes, so like when I thought, okay, I want to teach, and when I thought, okay, I really want to direct, I had to really look at, I had a very vivid imagination. Like, you tell me, like, I can't stand if somebody tells me, like they were cut or something like that happens, because my mind is so vivid that I see it like a movie in my mind, and I'm just like, oh, no, not that, ooh, no way. And they're like, oh yeah, do you want to see it? I'm like, no, that could be even worse. But life gives you clues. So like, what are you good at? And have you really started taking stock of what are you good at? And sometimes what people are the best at is talking. So then what things will that do for you? Or sometimes people are great at persuasion. So does that mean that you go into more sales? Do you go into more, what are the clues that life is giving you, no matter how odd or quirky or whatever? Because sometimes what you see is something minor, like the ability to make amazing biscuits, okay? That could be your business. And you have no idea that this minor thing that you can do so well that you just think, anybody can do that. The reality of it is that nobody can do it like you do it. Yeah. Do you have a voice? Can you sing in a way? What do you do well? And then I think that if you will take those clues that life is giving you, that those clues will lead you into where you are supposed to be and how you start to incorporate those things in what you're doing. But you've got to be aware, self-aware enough to not think that whatever that quirky thing, like I was looking at something the other day on Shark Tank on the Sponge Daddy. And I have one. And I love my Sponge Daddy. And it's just a sponge. But like you can stick your spoon in it and clean it and do, and I looked at that and I went back and I watched on the Shark Tank, and at the time he was looking for $100,000 for an investor to get involved in his business for sponges. Something so simple, but he had revolutionized and redid the sponge. And I always love to see, like, so when they say yes on the Shark Tank, what ends up happening? And that $100,000 that he went to get, he ended up getting $200,000 for in the show with Lori. And then from that, the company is now worth, I believe, $200 million from a sponge. Don't ever in your life think that what you do is insignificant. Take stock in it, protect it, and work it and go for it, because you never ever know where it will grow into something amazing. My little teaching has sent me all over the country. I've traveled to, I can't tell you how many programs all across the nation, mentoring kids and teachers all over the country, and provided the career of a lifetime for me. And all because I loved reading plays, and because I love telling stories, and because I love working with kids and teachers. And it created a career for me, the likes of which I never knew would happen. And so I say that to say, what do you do well? And how do you maximize that in your life?
Were you afraid of anything not going your way throughout your journey?
I'm still afraid of stuff not going my way. I like to win all the time.
Yeah.
But I will tell you that I have learned, excuse me, talk about coughing in the interview. Excuse me, everybody. But I have learned that probably the biggest successes in my life have come from my failures. The times when doors have closed in my face. And I didn't understand at the time, why am I not achieving, or why that the thing that I ask for from the universe, why is that not happening? And I'm realizing that sometimes that things don't happen because it's not the right time. Because if you wait, you will appreciate it whenever it does happen, because you had to go through the work, you had to go through the effort in order to make that happen. In order for you to really appreciate it at the time when it actually comes to you. But that fear of wondering, is my dream gonna happen? Are things gonna happen? I absolutely have those things. But here's what I fear more. And if I'm to be very transparent about it, growing up, my dad was an amazing basketball player. And he was good enough to go into the NBA. He was considered one of the #1 players coming out of North Carolina out of high school. I have the newspaper articles and the trophies and, and all of that. And instead of going into the NBA, he and my mom got married, and I showed up, surprise, and he ended up going into the Air Force. And I remember sitting on the couch with him and watching NBA games. And he would say, son, I used to play against that guy, and I beat that guy in the state championship. And that guy, always looked up to me, and I mentored that guy. And I would watch him see that, and I would watch him see it with such longing and such regret. And the thing for me that scared me the most is that I would one day be sitting on the couch, watching the television screen and wondering, what if? And so I would rather go for it and fail and say, at least I tried with everything in my being to be the best at that, or to try for that, or to go for that, rather than sitting back with regret and wondering, what if? What if scares me? And I want to be able to, when I leave this planet, whenever the good Lord takes me home, I want to be able to look back on this thing and go, you know what, I did that. I did that to the best of my ability. I want to be able to look at my niece and my nephew and go, now top that. And so that's been my whole thing. And I think that that's what gets me over my fear is, Lord, I might fail at this, but what if I don't try? That scares me to death.
Have you ever received any judgment, like people telling you that you can't pursue what you want to pursue?
Oh, you're talking about the haters?
Yeah.
Haters! Yes, Lord, the haters always have a way of showing up. Haters love to show up and tell you what you cannot do, always. And that's how I know, usually that's exactly what I should be doing. When haters go, that's impossible. That's not for you. That can't happen for you. And I'm going, well, how did it happen for this person and that person and this person and that person? But yet somehow I'm insignificant. Somehow it's not for me. Somehow, my mom always used to tell me when I would be competing at speech and debate tournaments, she'd say, son, somebody's got to win this tournament at the end of the day. There's going to be an award ceremony. Somebody's got to be in finals. My question to you is, why not you? If it's going to come to somebody else, why are you not the one to be the champion of that day? And so I've just learned now in my life that when the haters show up, that's the indication of, oh, that's exactly what I should be doing. I've also learned to be quiet on some of my dreams, because your dreams aren't for everybody to hear. Sometimes people will kill your dream, You know, when you're planting a seed in your life, you know, a seed is real small. Any tree that you see is grown from something this small of a possibility. Sometimes your dream is that big. It's only as big as a mustard seed, but yet there's an oak tree in this. So when you plant that, you have to plant it and you have to water it and you have to till to it and you have to wonder, is it ever going to grow? It's got to be like the grass in my backyard. I kept putting out grass seed and I'm like, this yard is never, ever, ever gonna grow. It ain't gonna happen. And I was out of town and one of my friends called me up and said, man, your backyard is lush. And I said, are you talking about that mud pit back there? He said, what mud are you talking about? He said, it's beautiful. I said, what? I said, take a picture. You telling me the grass grew? And took a picture. And I think about that. And when I saw that, I got like tears in my eyes. You have no idea how much work, how much money, how much time, everything I had put in just something that simple. And I realized that that's the same thing for your dreams. You don't ever know after you've tilled it and worked it and you think it's dead. You don't know what's going on up underneath the surface. And everything in its time will grow. And all of a sudden, you look up and it's beautiful. And that's been my life. Is sometimes it has been so barren. Sometimes it has been so lonely. Sometimes I did not see my way through. People laughed. People said it's not possible. People said you're not smart enough. You're not good looking enough. You don't have the resources. You don't have the background. It is not possible for you. But nobody knew what was underneath in the ground, waiting to go. And so I will just tell anybody that's in the situation that you're in, just look in the ground, because you don't know what's going on up underneath. And you keep planting and you keep working and you keep striving. And one day you look up and your life, it gets beautiful all of a sudden.
Hard work always pays off.
In the end, it does. It really and truly does. And sometimes that hard work is figuring out on how not to do something. And that's okay. Because I've trust me, I got a lot of times where I've learned, don't do it that way. You know what I'm saying? Do it this way. But know that that time was not wasted. Your learning is never, ever wasted as long as you are learning your way through things in your life. That's what I have found.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. So, Mr. Wilson, did you have a role model as a child, or do you still have one?
Oh, yes. I think probably the biggest role model that I've had in my life has been my mother, the taskmaster. My mother is tough love. My mother was one that I watched growing up. She was a telephone operator. She did not go to college until she was in her 40s. Graduated in her mid to late 40s from college, and then ended up going back to college in her 50s and getting not one but 2 master's degrees. She worked her way up from telephone operator to being director of supplier diversity at Verizon Wireless, and then leaving Verizon Wireless after what was almost a 30-year career there, and now works for the city of Fort Worth. And I've watched her travel all over the world and meet. She's interviewed for the President of the United States for a job that she actually ended up turning down. I've watched her do all kinds of powerful meetings. I walked into a meeting with her one time and at the Lowe's Anatole in Dallas. I don't know what it's called now, but she was up there in the front of the boardroom and I didn't know. She said, yeah, just stop by the meeting. I was picking up something from her and I just happened to walk in and there's hundreds of people in this room. And then there's all these people up there on this panel and my mom's right there in the middle. And beside her is the CEO of Exxon and of different telephone companies and all this. And people are asking these CEOs questions, and they're diverting their questions over, well, Gwen, what do you think? And I'm like, and she's over there and dressed to the nines, looking beautiful. We always say she looks like Diana Ross. And she's up there beautiful and answering those questions and on it. And she was like the center of all of that. And I watched her do that while as a kid, she would be working 2 jobs. And at night also working at a convenience store. And sometimes we would go over there to the convenience store, and that's how we were able to eat, was from the convenience store. She would get us hot dogs and things like that to be able to feed me and my brother growing up. But somehow she was driven, and somehow she knew that even though she was at a tight place in her life, that it was tough sometimes to pay the light bill, that somehow her life, that was a moment in time, but that was not going to be all the time. And she and I were in her kitchen one day in her house now that she paid off in 3 years. And she said, Damon, she said, remember how we used to drive through neighborhoods and wonder how in the world is it possible to ever live in something like this? And then she just, just broke down into tears. And she and I both did, because we understood the sacrifice. And I understood what that meant for her. And I know that in my life, as tough as things can be sometimes, that if my mom could raise 2 boys, one an athlete, one an artist, work 2 jobs, go to school, work 2 jobs and go to school at the exact same time, that I could do anything in my life that I wanted to do. And she did not work that hard for me to fail or for my brother to fail. And we haven't. We have not let her down. So she is absolutely my hero. And she is somebody that I definitely look up to. And she is somebody to this day that still gives me the tough love. I'll call her up sometimes and I'm feeling sorry for myself. She's like, oh no, get it together. I'm like, can't you just tell me it's okay? Can't you just tell me that you love me? Oh, I love you. Now get up, stop feeling sorry for yourself, and let's go. She is a coach par excellence. And when my brother would be out there on that football field, if the game wasn't going well, she'd be like, hey, call the timeout. Come on over here, Jermaine. Let's talk. And then she'd give him some motivation, and somehow we would win those games. So that's just the way that she is. She is absolutely tough and an amazing, amazing person.
It's always good to have that one person that lifts you up.
Yes.
Maybe it's not it's okay. Sometimes we need to hear, like, get up and wipe your face.
That's right.
Because no one else is gonna wipe it for you.
Stop crying.
Yeah.
Get it. Or if you're gonna cry for you got about 1 minute to cry. Okay, cool. Now, let's get it going, and let's move forward with this thing called life. Yeah. And that's who she is.
I mean, time never stops, so why should we?
That's right. That is the truth.
Yeah.
The absolute truth.
So I completely agree with your mom. She seems like a wonderful lady.
Yes, she is something, a force for sure.
How did you become a part of the Super Talks podcast?
That is a crazy, interesting story right there. So here's what happened, and I wish Dr. Gonzalez were here because he would know that I am telling the truth, but I'm sure he'll see this. So I was in the VIP room. We were getting ready to do Steel Magnolias, which I had helped co-direct with Christopher Esparza. And I showed up in this suit that looked kind of like Steve Harvey from off of Showtime at the Apollo. It was one of them 5-button suits with the vest on. I was just trying to be cool that night. I thought, I'll just, and Dr. Gonzalez just happened to be there. And I went into the VIP room and I was getting me some tea. And all of a sudden, someone came up to me and they said, hey, Dr. Gonzalez wants to meet you. And I said, oh, okay. And I went over there to meet him. I shook his hand. And I'm like, hey, how you doing? And we talked for about 30 seconds. And he looked at me and he said, you're the one. And I said, Okay. He said, I need to see you in my office on Monday. I'm like, okay. And he's like, I got a podcast and I'm going to need you to be on that podcast. So I'm going to see you in my office on Monday. And I'm like, all right, let me, okay. And so I show up and I end up in his office and I sit down and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to be interviewed, for the podcast. And I'm like, I don't know why he chose me. Maybe it was the suit. I don't know, but whatever. And he looked at me and he said, you have absolutely no idea why you're here, do you? And I said, no, I have no idea why I'm here. He's like, oh no, I need you to co-host the podcast. And I'm like, co-host, I don't know anything about this. I really wasn't a big podcast watcher or listener at the time. I've been interviewed for one podcast before, and he's like, here goes the microphone, here go the headphones, and he's like, and let's get going, because the first interview is gonna be me. And I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna have my very first podcast be probably the most important interview that I'm gonna do, will be the very first one. And why he trusted me to be able to do that for him, I have no idea, but it has been absolutely amazing moving forward from there. But that is honestly how I ended up doing the Super Talks with the superintendent. And it has been an incredible experience.
It's always the things that you least expect.
Yes.
All the time.
Remember I told you that grass will pop up when you really thought that yard was dead, and then all of a sudden, and you're like, oh, okay. And so I don't know if it was the tea or if it was the suit, but whatever it was, here I am.
Do you think it's your good luck suit?
Huh?
Like, do you think it's your good luck suit?
I don't know. Maybe it's Steve Harvey from Showtime at the Apollo. I mean, I don't know what it is, but I do know that that there was a chemistry there, and I do know that I'm grateful for whatever it is that he saw in me. I just am very much so myself. I mean, even right now, I mean, this is who I am on camera, off camera. I'm just being me. I don't know how else to do it. My mom always taught me that. She's like, if people aren't gonna like you, they might as well know the real you right up front. So, I mean, I'm like, this is who I am. Take me or leave me, here you go. And for whatever reason, that sparked something in him. And he said, come along on this wild journey. And I've been in there ever since, making it happen.
The best person you could be is always yourself.
Yes.
It's always you.
Yes.
Because
yes.
there's only one of you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's been an incredible thing. He has been an amazing friend and a terrific mentor. And going on this journey with him, with this being his first year in this district, has been an incredible thing as well. The thing that we've learned about each other, the things that we've learned about other people, it has been quite a journey.
Yeah, but it seems like you have a lot of fun, and you seem very appreciative. That's awesome.
Yes.
That's awesome that you realize how grateful you should be, and it's awesome.
Yes,
it's really good.
yes, and I am very much so grateful, but I was very scared.
Yeah.
Because I had no idea what I was doing, and it has forced me out of my shell because, like I said, I like being behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I'm not you think, like I said, being a theater person that, you just love being a ham and you love, my mom always taught me, she always said, son, get up there, wow the crowd, and get off stage with them always wanting more. And I have learned to get off the stage. But in this scenario, I'm on the stage every week. And so it has been quite a different experience. But I feel like I've grown a lot from it, and I really do appreciate it.
It's awesome. So, Mr. Wilson, have you produced or created podcasts before?
No, never. But now it's made me really think about it, because the thing about the podcast, the most important thing that I think that I have found is that everybody has quite a story. Mm-hmm. Who you see as a person whenever you meet people is made up of a lifetime of experiences and changes and twists and turns and people arriving to this moment in their lives in ways that are very unconventional. In every interview that we have had so far, people have been so incredibly vulnerable and open and honest and giving you glimpses of wisdom into their lives in ways that I had no idea. The things that I've learned about people has been amazing. And so, but no, prior to that, no, I never had done podcasts. And yet, I guess prior to that, maybe my life has been a podcast. Because to study characters and acting is like doing a podcast. Because you've got to know, you got to do your research work. You've got to, and that's something I didn't realize too. I mean, sometimes I'm working on preparing for an interview at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning. 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm online. I'm Googling things. I'm looking stuff up. I'm on YouTube. I'm watching interviews that they've had with other people before, like when we had Grupo Frontera, on there and learning about that group. And then I'm not the best at Spanish at all. And then realizing they're singing in Spanish and a lot of the interviews are in Spanish. And I was like, okay, I got to figure this stuff out. And so, it's made me have to be better about my research work, about thinking on my feet, about, all of those things. But I have never done a podcast and never thought that I would ever do anything like that. And it's been incredible.
Yeah, it sounds super awesome. I was telling Dr. Gonzalez about that actually when I interviewed him. But I really like hearing people's stories too, because the hardships that they face, and it's really hard to pick yourself up because people could look at the good because it's portrayed. That's all you see on social media.
Correct. The smiles.
Yes.
The good times in
but
people's lives.
But no one sees the tears.
That's right.
The tears, or sometimes people don't have that support system to pick themselves up. But when they do, it's amazing. It's it's that in itself, within itself, it's a big accomplishment. And just waking up every day, thanking God or whoever, just being grateful for what you do have right in front of you, it's awesome. That's a very big accomplishment.
Oh yeah. And how people pick themselves up when they don't have that support system is critical. I always think about Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. And really growing up, I watched The Wiz, is what I grew up on, was The Wiz. And one of the things that that they say in that is, she says, "You mean to tell me that all this time that I had the power to go home?" And the good witch says to her, "Yes, you've always had that within you. It was just as close to you as your feet." And I think it was the lion or one of them that looks at her and says, "Well," he says, "then if you had come here, then you never would have to fool with all of us if you'd been able to do." And she said, "No," she said, "I'm grateful for my journey." She says, "Because I never would have seen you be able to find your heart, and you your courage, and you your brains." That journey that she went on. And I really do believe that all that we need, that the higher power up above has already put it within us. And I think that that's my job as a mentor, is helping my students and helping my teachers figure out that all that you have, all that you need, you have. You've just got to have people help you find it along the way. And that's what that podcast, I feel like, is doing for this district, is helping people to see through other people's stories that everything that everybody needed, they had. But they needed people to be able to help them to be able to find it within themselves, to be able to bring that out. And when she figured that out, then she could go home. Then she could finally go home. And home was always here. So that's what I have found in my journey. That's what I have found through these podcasts. That's what I have found through theater.
That's amazing. It's very heartwarming to hear that. Yeah. Because people are capable of so much.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, but they don't know it.
Yeah.
They don't know it. And they don't realize too, like I've always said too, that the smallest thing is the thing that can make the biggest difference.
Whether, I mean, because before I had like a little shell around me. Now, I mean, sometimes I do, but I think I've grown from what I used to be. And now I found myself that I could just like, if I'm in a store and a random person will talk to me and be like, oh, how are you? I'd be like, I'm doing great. How about yourself? Like those little interactions, they go so far. Because I mean, you don't really know someone, but you don't know how much that hi, how are you means to someone.
That's right.
So whether it's not a person close to you or a relative, even if it's a complete stranger, they could do something that affects you in a very positive way.
Yes.
And it's amazing.
That's right.
It's amazing. So thank you so much for joining me.
Well, I
our
really
highlight.
appreciate the opportunity, and I admire you for doing this and getting out of your own shell and making this happen, and for telling our stories. And it has been an absolute honor to be here.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being transparent and sharing your stories with people, because we never know who might need to hear that advice.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right, because you never know what people are going through.
Exactly.
And I think, it's so important to know that, things are not always going to go well.
Yeah.
They really aren't. But you keep working and you keep trying and you keep fighting, and one day you look up and life has a way of going, now let me pay you double for your trouble. So that's how I live my life anyway.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me today on our HCISD Highlight. I'm Melanie Zavala, and until next time.